You're listening to the Savoir Faire Audio Experience.
Are you ready?
The Savoir Faire Experience is your guide to everything that has to do with lifestyle. From dating, rides, style, and entertainment. All brought to you by the editor of Savoir Faire magazine, Robert White. Anything goes on this audio experience. So, let's go.
It's still the best.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Savoir Faire Audio Experience. Thank you guys for sharing, following, listening, all the love. We really appreciate it. Today is another great interview with you. This is a really unique person that I'm excited to talk about because he went from one extreme great profession to another really great profession, and that switch is really kind of a highlight of his career, and I'm really excited to talk with him. So, Navin Goyal, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you finding some time in your busy life to come and chat with us. I definitely appreciate it. And I was reading up on you a little bit today and learning a lot about your company and what you guys are up to and just a little bit of your background. It's very unique and cool. I was watching a couple even other interviews that you did with other people to kind of just get some context of, how your switch from MD to VC kind of happened. But I definitely want to, let my readers and listeners find out about your story too. So if you don't mind, I'll give you the floor. I'm really interested in learning more about how you became an MD, the process of that's what I'm going to do for a career, and then this dramatic switch that you made in your life from MD to VC.
Yeah, so the physician route was pretty attractive to me early on. I saw some community physicians and always respected them. I didn't have any doctors in the family, but it was a curiosity that I had. And whenever I was around some of, our family friends that were doctors, there was this kind of respect and curiosity from a lot of people asking these physicians questions. And a lot of them were primary care physicians taking care of kids and adults. And so I would look at them as extremely respected, extremely intelligent, and of course, just helping the community. And people would ask them health questions and, this and that. And they seemed to really enjoy it. So that exposure was intriguing for me. And then as I was going through school, I really liked the sciences. Becoming a doctor was probably a fourth or fifth grade kind of aspect for me. And it just got stronger as I got into the sciences and kind of ignored a lot of other things. And so it was pretty tunnel visioned into it. And then did pretty well in school after trying really hard at every step. I say that because I wasn't one of the people who could just ace a test without studying much. I had to study really hard. So I was extremely driven. As I got into, undergrad, I majored in a major called molecular genetics, which is still am trying to understand what that was.
Okay.
And I did it because there's a few people that told me to do a really challenging major in the sciences that will look better on a medical school application, because medical school is pretty challenging to get into. And I worked really hard, got into medical school, and from there got exposed to physiology and pharmacology, so the way the body works, and then the way medications and chemicals and substances work within the body. And someone had recommended anesthesiology as something I should look into, and which is a very niche, field. A lot of people don't know what an anesthesiologist does. A lot of people don't know what anesthesia is. And so even for myself at that stage, I was very curious and said, well, I'll try it out if you're recommending that I will potentially like it. And I just fell in love with it, which just kind of sounds funny because a lot of people still don't know what it is, but it's the ability to make quick decisions, help people in a very vulnerable scenario, and use your mind to think a lot and make decisions, but then also use your hands and do various procedures. So those are a couple kind of characteristics or traits of the field that really energized me.
Okay, so my amateur brain in the MD world is an anesthesiologist is the person that is, giving people the countdown before they pass out when they're doing surgery, right? That's you. It was you.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
And another way to say it is, to essentially numb the body so the body can undergo the needed procedure or surgery while keeping the body alive and healthy. So, you're helping people become unconscious, but you're also continuing the functions of the body. And so there's a balance of that, and that's the science behind it. And from a patient perspective, yes, you're getting, you're counting down, you're going off to sleep, and then you wake up, in the recovery room in most cases. So
yeah, very cool. I mean, I definitely appreciate a little bit of feedback there and how that all worked and how you got interested in that. And obviously at some point, you were an anesthesiologist for a lot of years, but also a medical director, really kind of advanced yourself through the medical field. But then at some point there's a switch in you that decides to go a different direction, like an entrepreneurial journey for yourself. So talk to me about like life situations and what was happening when you decided that you were going to kind of step away from the medical community and go this other direction.
Yeah. So, I think it's all about a learning curve. And when I reflect on this and, getting into medical school and pursuing the journey to become an anesthesiologist, then working, then becoming a medical director, there was always things to push me to grow and learn. And at some point, it became pretty flat when, after several years of practicing, after being a medical director for a while, I was getting a little bored, to be honest. And I don't know if that's just because of my personality or also because, I was just kind of training for so long and growing for so long. And then I felt this urge to say, I need to keep learning and growing. And so I started doing some personal investing into some startups. I was reading a lot about business. I was very intrigued about entrepreneurs suddenly because I believe it was refreshing because there's no pathway for an entrepreneur, no known structure. No guarantees, no, if you work hard, you're going to get here, which can be very scary and turn off people. But I think for me, being in the position I was, it was kind of refreshing. So as I was personally investing in some startups, I got to know some entrepreneurs, really pick their brain. It was very fascinating to me. And then a couple of years after starting to invest, I had the opportunity to start a company, which was still in the field of anesthesiology, but taking anesthesia services to dental practices. And I co-founded that with a couple other anesthesiologists.
Okay, very cool. So I'm thinking about your career choice from an entrepreneurial mindset for myself too. And I'm like, okay, wait a second. So you went through education. You had a guaranteed opportunity because you had a great education and were smart to be able to go off and be an MD and get involved in medical field and have a very stable lifestyle. And then decided at some point, I'm bored. I'd rather go to entrepreneurship and potentially be up and down financially, stressed all the time. Like the things that entrepreneurs really have to deal with are kind of like right in your face. And so that was the switch that you made. But like, what was it? Just kind of just boredom, or that you wanted to challenge yourself? You felt like there was more to offer. Like, what was the mindset?
Yeah. So I did want to challenge myself, but I do want to give you the hybrid option, which is what I took, which is not saying, oh, I want to stop medicine and then suddenly go, take a right here and start a career path that's completely, risky and different. What I was doing was I was practicing, anesthesiology at my practice. Mm-hmm. And then when this opportunity came up, we were doing this more on the side. We didn't have a ton of free time. We had young families and life, but we did this on our free time, which was a great creative outlook, and it was really exciting. And I think it was just a creative outlet for us in a relatively now flat learning curve field. Okay. Now, what the next step I did determined the speed and volume of what I could do in the future of business, which is delegate. So by understanding the opportunity with this specific venture, we knew that we needed more hours worked and attention to detail on the business while we were still practicing full time. And so we brought in other people whose job, and experience was running businesses. Okay. And so that ability to start something and then bring in operational support is actually how I've, managed to be on a, fourth venture at the moment. And so that ability to delegate, build trust, and feel very comfortable kind of sharing that with others are some of the traits that I have.
That's actually a really great trait. I'm not going to lie. Because as an entrepreneur myself, one of the hardest things for me to do was to be able to pass along or delegate opportunity within my company to other people that were stronger at it than me. Because when you build a business, it's like your child, and it's like trying to pick the perfect babysitter. It's like you need to make sure it's someone you can trust so that they don't run it into the ground. So that was a really hard part for me too. But that's really great advice for people that are listening, is being able to put people in positions that they really have strengths, and that's your weakness, and being able to trust that. So obviously this MD to VC is a very unique story. I love that you kind of made this dramatic switch. Let's talk about this brand that you created. Loud Collective is one of the brands that you have. Loudco.com is the website for those that want to go check that out. Talk to me about Loud, where this name come from. I know what it means to me, but talk to me about the Loud Collective and what services you offer at this business.
Yeah. So first of all, I think taking a step back into why Loud Capital was started initially, which was as I was personally investing, there were a lot of people around me, especially being in the Midwest, who didn't know a lot about angel investing and venture. And so they wanted to participate, but didn't have either time, interest, or passion that I personally had. So they said, well, could you help direct these investments if I gave you capital? And that's where the start of a angel fund started. That fund became more funds in a firm and a philosophy called Loud, which is to be loud and active in the participation of our investments, because capital is one slice of so many things that founders need. And me getting the entrepreneurial bug, I said, wow, this is actually really fun and challenging. And so money is one thing, but there's so many other things I want to help with. And so that's why Loud has been the name. Now, in that, it's, coming from a different career and entering this, it's like an open, mold of clay on in the center of the table. It's like, we can shape this however we want. How should venture be? And so very early on, in order to be loud and active, there needs to be some structure and services and ways to be able to scale this, right? There's, it started out with texting founders and getting on quick calls or meeting them and going over some things. That's great. And I still do that. But how do you start adding services, especially when you have this layer of trust, and help them grow, mitigate risk, save time, immediately bring value, all these things that we've really realized is so valuable. And so Loud Collective is encapsulating that essence, which it's taken a decade, by the way. Like, we start out as an angel fund and then a few more early stage pre-seed funds. Now it's, okay, we have enough great, intelligent, and ambitious people who are also very humble in the room. We have different experiences. We have exited entrepreneurs and founders and CEOs, all who want to contribute and build this. And so the collective is that whole essence. It's venture, but there's all these other services, even building data rooms and evaluating companies, and then offering fractional executives to accelerate the companies with their experience, right? Like, we tell founders, hey, you want to get here to, let's say, this acquisition, or you want to be at this stage in life. What if we brought people who have been to where you want to go, come back to the journey you're on a little bit earlier, and help you build towards that? What is the value of that? And most people say, oh my gosh, I would love to find those people. Well, guess what? We have those people. So that's high level what the collective does.
Yeah, that's really cool. So it's not just Loud Capital or the Loud Venture aspects. It's really kind of a hands-on piece where you guys are really kind of bringing in strong folks that have been where most entrepreneurs want to be, And it's an education process. I mean, obviously one of the things that's so hard about entrepreneurship is there really is no guide. There's really no direct path on any business that you're going to create on how to be successful in that business. But if you can lean on people that have been there, done that kind of situation, I think that's really kind of unique. And having Loud kind of offer that as a service, or people can kind of come in and be involved in the brand and direct people a little bit, I think that's really kind of unique. That's a really cool opportunity.
Yes, and thank you. And there's a lot of brilliant minds that are contributing to this. I'm just a person who speaks and contributes, but I represent so many awesome people. And one of the moves we made recently is, Loud Capital acquired an executive placement firm that places fractional executives called Infinite CXO, and we announced the acquisition just 4 months ago. And what we did was we brought more brilliant minds and executives who I was a client from the Loud Capital side of. 3 or 4 of their executives were in our company already, bringing tremendous value and culturally really integrating very quickly. And so I said, oh my gosh, I think there's so much we can do here. And the founder of that, Aaron Boggs, was also thinking bigger, saying, sometimes these companies aren't ready for a executive yet, but they are ready for experience and wisdom. How do you offer that? And so as we were kind of dreaming together, that's kind of how we said, let's come together and do this. And that's how the collective was born. So overnight, we have over a couple hundred executives that are in our atmosphere who are plugged into companies, or some of them are on the bench ready to go, while we're continuously learning about the latest and greatest in technology, ensuring that we're extremely aligned, because we only take, it's great that an executive has done this in their past and this is their resume, but it has to be relevant today. And what does that mean? The ability to learn, grow, and adapt. And that's not everyone at the moment, but we're trying to we have created this culture that is attracting those people that could plug in efficiently into companies.
Yeah, I like that. That's a really cool philosophy as well. I was going to ask kind of the difference, because you're kind of in 2 different worlds at the same time, even though it's all under the same branding. So, I mean, obviously Loud Collective is very unique and cool, and you guys are giving people a lot of guidance in certain things. And I think most entrepreneurs or business people are really kind of like, oh, if I just had the money, I would be able to pull this off. But the truth of that is, like, having the money is one piece of it for sure. But like being able to have people guide you on where to spend the money and what to do with it, how the marketing campaign should look, where the budgeting should go, who you should hire, those kind of things are like really key pieces. So does Loud Collective kind of bring some of that stuff to life as well? It's not just the capital piece of it, but being able to guide people on the right steps to grow the business.
Yeah, and so Loud Capital still has, venture funds, and there's different conversations that happen there, especially because there's only a very small percentage and a portion of businesses that need or want venture capital. I would say that the collective is focused on existing businesses, not necessarily startups, but existing businesses who are interested in growth, adjusting and being educated in, AI and how to adopt tools to go more efficient and, speed to value is what we say. So the collective is focusing on a lot of business. We have a lot of industries that are involved, from your, traditional companies of services, HVAC, plumbing, really solid companies and solid leadership that is looking to embrace the changes that are around us, whether it is technology or whether it's where people are going, how to recruit and retain and train the best people for your business. And so we're working with some emerging companies that are really trying to change the game and disrupt a lot of things in more of the traditional venture space. But we're working with a ton of companies that we all rely on as society that might not get the sexy headlines. And honestly, like, it's fun because when we can bring a solid group of people that are passionate about working on something you created, I mean, there's just magic that happens.
Yeah, I like that. That's really unique. So on top of having Loud Capital, Loud Collective, and kind of injecting your team into businesses to help them with growth, you also have a very substantial personal branding story too. I mean, there is obviously a website for you. You do some guest speaking. You're an author. You got some really kind of cool stuff happening. When did you decide that you wanted to be in front of this and kind of become a brand for yourself?
That's a great question. I started putting some content out on LinkedIn back in 2016, 17, and I really started getting comfortable. I got some great feedback and traction, and this muscle that I created, which is, having thoughts, writing it down, reflecting, learning, and then sharing a lot of that publicly, being vulnerable and being open to share and learn, has become a routine for me. And so now take that into more, a newsletter, which I've, over now 75,000 subscribers. I put a lot on LinkedIn still and some of the other social outlets. When I made this switch of a career change, if we will, because at end of 2019, I ended up leaving my private practice anesthesiology job to run Loud Capital full time. It was not easy, but I did it. And I ended up writing and documenting it, how I felt, the things that I have learned and how to empower others, because I was becoming a magnet for conversations of career change. I decided to write a book, and in 2022, I released my book, Physician Underdog. And so, which for a lot of physicians, but even just people in any professional arena who are thinking about, they have all this knowledge and experience, are feeling a little bit guilty about wanting to go left or right or leaving their job. It's for them. But to going back to what you asked, which is like, when did I decide to build a personal brand? I think it's just me being public about these conversations and content have built a personal brand. And I see the power of it. I see the power of talking on this podcast. Well, number one, because I'm really passionate about it. Number two, it tends to land on people who are ready to hear it and can learn anything that I've learned over the years, or ponder on it. And the power of that, the fulfillment of that, the conversations and DMs I get on, hey, thank you for putting that out there, has solidified my, some of my purpose, which is to take a lot of the, quote unquote, some of the crazy moves that I've made and learned and grown. How can I tell that to my younger self or less experienced self? Because there's a lot of people out there.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I applaud you for that as well. I'm in a big process right now, literally 2025, of putting myself a little bit more forward into my own brand and being in the public eye a little bit more. I'm definitely doing all of the checklist of things you need to do to become a, I guess the brand for yourself. I'm in the process of writing a book. I'm starting to talk to agencies about potential guest speaking opportunities and trying to build my structure and my message and how it all works. So I always applaud people that are kind of breaking and putting themselves in front. I do think it's an excellent marketing move for people to put themselves in front of their business and let people see who is running the show, learn the story, learn about the person and their background, figure out what their goals are, why they're doing what they do. I think that's a really great opportunity for people to kind of connect with a human and not just a business, and realize that, like, this is someone I want to be working with, doing stuff with. And I think that just leads to great success in business when you are the founder, entrepreneur, CEO, whatever that may be, and kind of putting yourself forward and allowing people to come to your front door, ask questions, and connect. So I applaud you for the personal branding stuff. I love those kind of stories for sure. I mean, is there anything else that you want to add about Loud that we want to tell people about? Like, is there a way to get connected with you guys? How do we figure out if we're a candidate to work with you? How does that all work?
Yeah, I mean, I think, right now we have a landing page on loudco.com, loudco.com, but very soon we'll have a full functional website where you can see how your business can be helped in various ways. That's one thing. And I just want to add to what you were talking on the personal brand. First of all, congrats on building your personal brand and having those ambitions to write a book and do various things, because I think they're extremely fulfilling. And so good luck to you on that. And I really want to say that it is good for business. If you're building a business or running a business, there are so many people that I meet with who have already kind of done their diligence or seen some content I've put out there, and they're like, I almost feel like I know you already. And so there's kind of been this baseline trust that I have the opportunity to talk about the business because they know where I'm coming from. I talk about a lot of my falls, very vulnerable and open about it, and I'm always willing to learn. And, I think there was a younger version of me that thought that I thought was less professional or maybe less reliable, but it really is the opposite. It's like, wow, this person is willing to learn, willing to listen, willing to put themselves out there. I want to work with that because I need to be vulnerable too if I need help. And so that's really helped in our conversations, especially recently with the Loud Collective, and even this just with investors in the fundraising world, et cetera. They are seeing and hearing things that I'm talking about, as well as some of my other partners. So just wanted to double down on how important it is to, or how effective it can be to build a personal brand if you have interest in it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on the personal branding part of it for sure. It's very unique to kind of put yourself in there. And what I like about what you just said, too, Navin, is being able to tell people about the lows, because there is a lot of lows in entrepreneurship, growing a business. And those are the moments when you don't really know what you're getting into when you want to be an entrepreneur, when you're launching a business. And sometimes you get a great high and there's, good money, you feel good, everything's connecting, all the cylinders are firing on the same channel, everything is just kind of working. And there are other days when everything falls apart and you have to start putting out fires. That's what most entrepreneurs say. Like, the whole job is just putting out the fires. But showing that kind of vulnerability side from you and, people that kind of respect what you've created, I think that's super, super unique. I'm doing that too, actually. I have a little thing that I'm doing on the side called Off the Record, which is basically me being a little bit more vulnerable and allowing people to see the back end of the stuff that I do for a living, the things that I deal with people that I interview, things that, kind of fall apart sometimes, and kind of letting a vulnerable side be shown in a specific platform. So I think that's really cool and unique. You obviously have a very large following on LinkedIn. I just found your LinkedIn page. I want to send people over there to kind of engage with you because I think your personal story is so unique. And now that we know you're sharing content out there, it's a good place to follow you. So I'll make sure that link is in the description on this. But I just want to thank you for your time, Navin. It's been very interesting talking with you, learning your story about switching up from MD to VC and having this really kind of unique company that you've created with Loud. There just seems to be changing people's lives a little bit at a time. And that's super unique and cool that you have your heart in the right place and you're helping people grow.
Thank you so much. And one thing I wanted to add, which is it's a little bit newer in my world, is I've always wanted to have a show and talk about thought leadership and the topics that I care about a lot, being vulnerable, and then eventually getting guests on there. So I actually recently launched a show called Made to Rise, which is on Spotify and YouTube, and it's really talking about imposter syndrome. So as we continue to push ourselves, whether we change careers or just push growth, we become uncomfortable, we have doubts, we have anxiety. And so my goal is to talk about imposter syndrome and really educate people with science and research that it's actually a sign of growth. And there's nothing to be hard on yourself with because you want that growth. But some of those feelings of doubt and anxiety and fear come along with us, and that's okay. So I'm extremely passionate about that and very excited about the show.
Yeah, that's cool. I just looked it up on YouTube, so I'll be a follower for sure and keep track of what you got going on over there. And if you need any advice with podcasting, holler at me, man. I got your back.
Yeah, I will, man. I will.
I really appreciate you connecting and talking with me. This is very cool. Hopefully everyone will go check everything out. Again, I'm just going to do a quick little drop here. So Navin Goyal, MD.com is your personal branding. LoudCO.com is the Loud Collective landing page. And then Loud Venture or Loud Capital is under loud.vc. You guys can go over there and check all that stuff out. Thanks so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you for listening to the show. Please take a minute to head over to www.savfair.com and subscribe to our publication.